Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Well, in this lecture, we're going to see how can I actually get into my router. There's different ways. I could connect directly, which is through a console. I could telnet into the router. I could SSH into the router. And we're going to see the actual differences between them. At the beginning, when you purchase a router, you cannot remote into it. You cannot telnet or SSH. Why? There's no actual configuration. So initially, you have to connect directly to the device through the console port. That's why there's a console port. So let me get a 1941 router and let me get an actual switch right over here. And I'm going to grab a few computers. Let's say a few. So I'm going to press the control key. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. And I'm going to put the router and the switch right here, more organized. And let me hook up the actual cables. So I'm going to connect from the laptop to the switch, laptop to switch, right? As you see, a laptop to switch. I rather choose the ports because eventually you're going to be working on switches. You should know which port is connecting to which. And from the router, gigabit 00 will connect to gigabit 01. So of course, the router doesn't have any actual configuration. There's nothing over here. Like technically speaking, how is it done in real time? I have to get myself a console cable, which is called a rollover cable. So you have something called a console cable, right? Console cable. Watch this, which is a rollover cable. So you need something like this. One end is USB, goes to your actual computer, and the other end goes to the console port of the router itself. And that's why when I actually go ahead, press escape to get rid of the cable, when I open the router and I look at my actual physical and I zoom in, I have a console port. See that? There is a console port. So I'm going to get myself a console cable from here and look what it says. RS-232. I have to connect it from the recommended standard 232 because back in the days, it was a COM port that I connect from the PC to the router's console port. RS-232. So if I go back online and I look at a console cable, look at this. See, it's a COM port that goes to the back of the computer to the console port of the router. But today, everything is USB. On the Cisco packet tracer, we tend to use it that way. So what do I need right now? How do I open the router? Because I know I showed you I could just go to the router, CLI. This is just the Cisco packet tracer. In real time, I have to have a console cable to do so. I need a software such as Putty. Look at this. You download this for free, Putty, and you connect through your serial. Okay, and you specify the COM port. Normally in Device Manager, you look at it and it tells you the USB is using which COM port. So you connect directly through this. But through here, I open this and I go to my desktop and I open Putty. Where's Putty? The terminal. And then I just click on OK. Now I'm actually logged into where? To the router. You see this? I press no. I do the same work as what I was actually doing when I showed you earlier. So let me go ahead and change something, a few things over here. Let's say host name R1. Let's say enable secret is what? Cisco. And press enter. I just did a few things. So this is like using Putty back in the days. It was called Hyper Terminal in Windows. But of course, we use Putty to connect directly from the PC to the router itself. I mean, I could do it from here, but I just want to show you how the console connects in real time. But most likely, I could go from here and CLI. This is the console. This is the same thing as what I actually did over here. The problem is right now, when I look at this and I look at my configuration, right? Watch this. I see line console 0, which means there's only one console port. Well, guess what? I want to configure the console. So if I go to global configuration mode, I say line con 0 and I press enter. That's how I log into the console. So this is a line mode. So whatever I do over here only affects the console connections if you're connecting directly. If I ask for help, I want to put a few things. I want to put a password for the console. So password, and I'm going to say the password is console, just like this. See that? The password is console. What does this mean? Well, let me do Control Z and let me save my configuration and exit out this time. Watch this. I log in, nothing happens because I never activated the password. So I'm going to go back in. Watch this. Config T, line, console, 0, and I ask for help and I have to activate the password. So I did do the password, but then I have to do login to enable the password. You see this? Look what's going to happen right now. Login. Control Z, WR. Go run. Right? Now look, I could see what the password is, and we'll show you how to encrypt it, but the password is activated. What does this mean? Exit, enter. Oh, there you go. This is the console password, and it's console because first it's going to tell you how are you connecting. Are you consoling in? Are you telnetting? Are you SSHing? So this is the console password. Now this is the enable secret, which is what Cisco SEC. See that? So now I have actually better protection for my console connection. If I stay logged in, it doesn't time me out. This is no good. I want to say if I don't touch the router for 30 seconds, I want you to actually what? Disconnect me. And I have to do this from the console. So if I do config T and I do line console 0 and I ask for help, is there an exec timeout? Let's see. Yes, there is. You see this? So I could be putting an actual what? Timeout over here. So I'm going to say exec timeout, ask for help, minutes 0, question mark, seconds 30. All right. And I'm going to press enter, control Z, and save my configuration. WR and show run or show start is the same thing right now. So I'm not going to do anything for 30 seconds. And you will see that I'm not going to be able to stay in. It's going to disconnect me. So, which means I have to log in again. This is actually good for what, folks? For security. Let's give it a moment and see what happens over here. So just a few more seconds and I should actually be out. If it doesn't work, a lot of times on the Cisco packet tracer, you have to save, then reload the actual device, reload the router, and then it should take effect. Look, it took effect. So I'm going to log in. This is the console password. So if I put Cisco, the enable secret doesn't work. So I'm going to put console, EN, and now the enable secret is what? Is actually Cisco, as you see. Now watch this. If I do config T and I do line console 0, right? Normally in the Cisco packet tracer, you're not going to have this trouble. But on a real router, you will have this trouble. Normally when I do control Z and I try to save, let's say this, I get interrupted. And you'll see this on a real device. For us not to get interrupted, when I actually do control C, and if I do get interrupted and you keep typing, it's not going to take the command. You have to hit the backspace and do the command again. So watch this, line con 0, and I do a command called login synchronous. Login synchronous stops you from being interrupted from the console itself. See, I'm always getting messages over here. You see this? There's always messages. So this, you will not see the difference if I say no login synchronous. When I do control Z, then I do copy. It doesn't interrupt me, but on a real router, it will. You will see the copy will be like somewhere in the middle over here. Okay. So let me go back. So this is the first thing I like to do when I configure a router, login synchronous, so I don't actually get interrupted. Let me ask for help over here. You see this? Everything that I want to do from the console is right over here. Everything is right over here. So every single thing I could see right in the list over here. All right. So I want to do more and more, but this is actually the console for now. That's what I wanted to actually show you. How does this actually work? Look at this. Logging, for example, modify message. If I say logging, question mark, synchronous. See, that's where I get it from. Question mark. That's how I learn all these things, right? So everything is by using a question mark. If you're not sure, put a question mark. That's how you can actually get this to work. So right now, what I did is when I exit, I have a console password. This is better for security, EN, and this is the enable secret. So now I'm trying to secure my router in a better way. But the problem is I still have what? The password is not encrypted. All right. I can see what the password is, and I do have a timeout. This only affects console connection, which means if I'm connecting directly with a rollover cable, which is really a console cable directly to the device itself. So what I wanted to show you for the console in our next section, we're going to see how can we actually remote into the device, especially using Telnet, which is something you won't be using. You'll see why, but we need to cover the Telnet session. So we'll see you folks in our next lecture. Bye now. Everybody, welcome back. It's Mo again. Well, in this lecture, what we're going to do is how can we remote in to the router. So console connection is, first of all, I have to configure what through the console. I probably have to set up an IP address. I have to set up the Telnet or SSH. So initially, I have to do everything from the console. So if I go back to my topology, this is what I have. I mean, normally this is a console. I would open it from here, terminal, and I would do all my configuration from here. But since Cisco Packet Trace allows me to do the console directly, I'd rather do it from here. There's nothing configured on the router. Okay, so watch this. When I go ahead, this is the console, all right? Console and enable secret, I'm logged in. If I look at my configuration, right, see this? And I could see enable secret is there, but I don't have IPs on the interfaces. And my telnet or SSH, this is for telnet or SSH, virtual teletype, which is for SSH and telnet, is not configured. The first thing, if I want to remote in from the console, I have to give myself an IP address for the interface. So gigabit 00 IP address, let's say 100.254 space the default subnet mask. Then no shut to turn the interface up and running. And I can put a description as we saw earlier, right? So that's what I actually need at the moment. I need an IP address on this device. I need to put IPs on my client machines. Guess what? I'm going to make this router as a DHCP server. So the first thing I need to do is exclude the IP that is assigned to the router. Then I create my own DHCP what? Pool, all right? 100. And I specify the network, which is 100.0 space ask for help. Here's the mask. Dot zero space question mark marriage return. I could press enter, ask for help. So I did the network. I could say the default router, which is the default gateway. That's 100.254. And I could say also I want to give out the DNS server. Ask for help. What's the IP? Let's say 8888. All right. Then Control Z and WR, save your configuration. When I do show run, watch this. I could see all my running config. Let's say I want to focus on DHCP. Well, I could do show run section DHCP. Just show me the DHCP. This is a pipe. So this is shift and the key under your backspace. And I could ask for help. I could use section, include, exclude, begin. I want to say, just show me the section of what? Of DHCP. And enter. Nothing shows up. Well, guess what? CLI is case sensitive. Look at this right now. DHCP. And now I see it. You see that? Because DHCP is lowercase, I could see only the DHCP stuff. Section interface, section this, section that. You can simplify how you want to run actual things over here. So now I want to make sure that my client machines have an IP address, DHCP. Instead of putting static numbers, why not make my router as a DHCP server? And right over here, desktop IP DHCP, right? All of them are getting an IP address. Okay, so if I maneuver the mouse, this one got 100.1, this one got 100.2, this one got 100.3, this one got 100.4, and look at the gateway and DNS is the same on all of them. Or I go back to my router and I do this command. This is console, so I connect through the console and I put the password and I do through IP DHCP binding so I could see who got an IP address and I could see their actual MAC address. All right. So the first thing is setting up an IP here, make sure these have IPs. Then I go to my router and I go to my VTY, VT, and I say line, ask for help. VTY, question mark, it says 0 through 15. What does that mean? 0 through 15 is 16 numbers, which means if I do 0 space 15, I could have 16 people let into the router. That's crazy. Do line VTY 0 space 2, which means 0, 1, 2, 3 people can only telnet at the same time. See that? Now it's config line. I'm going to put a password and I'm going to call the password telnet and then activate the password. I want to do exec timeout, which means, hey, if you don't do anything for 30 seconds, you'll be actually disconnected. You see that? I don't need login synchronous with a telnet or SSH. That's only for the console. And then I'm going to do Control Z, save WR, right? As you see, which means if I do show start with the startup config, I should see my DHCP. I should see everything, including the telnet, but I could still see the password. You see, for VTY 3 through 4, there's no login. So I don't see anything over here. By default, it goes from 0 through 4. I only enabled from 0 through 2, which means only 3 people can Telnet at the same time. How does this work? Well, I go to one of the machines. I go to command prompt and I type in Telnet space 192.168.100.254. What is the Telnet password? This is not console. So you don't type console. This is called Telnet. Remember, that's the VTY password. EN. And now the enable secret, which is Cisco. Here's one session. I go to this one. Instead of command prompt, I could use the Telnet option over here, just like this, and put the IP address 192.168.100.254 and connect. So this one is Telnet, EN, and this one is Cisco. I got in. Now I go to this one, command prompt, and let's say Telnet 192.168.100.254, right? This is called Telnet. That's the VTY password, EN, and this is the enable secret. And now if I go to the last one, which is my fourth one, I should be rejected. Why? Because I'm only allowing for how many connections? Just 3. Why did it work? Look at this. I got disconnected. I just wanted to see what you guys think. I got disconnected. It was 30 seconds. You know what I'm going to do? See, it's all right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back. This is actually good. We need to make a change. This is the console password because I am connected through the console. EN, enable secret, right? So config T, line VTY 0 space 2, and I'm going to say exact timeout 0 space 0, which means never timeout. All right, just for the sake of the lab. All right. So right now, let me go back over here and tell it again. And this is Telnet. You see what just happened? And now this is the enable secret to get into privilege mode. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. Telnet 100.254, and I'm going to say connect. And this is Telnet and EN, and this is the enable secret. Now I'm not going to be disconnected because I never did the timeout. Telnet is the VTY password. So the first one is like, how do you get in? So Telnet or console, then EN, and I do the enable secret as Cisco. There you go. This is the third one. Now look what's going to happen here. You cannot, because I said you only can have 3 connections. Just 3 connections, as you see. If I go to the router and through the console and I say, you know what? This is the console password. And let me log on and I say, show users. Oh, okay. The asterisk is me. I'm connected through the console and I have 3 VTY sessions. You see that? Look at this. If I say, if I want to disconnect somebody, let's see if we can do it from here. Clear line, ask for help. Let's see. I cannot actually do this. Let me see if I could do 134. Okay. No, it doesn't work. So not all the commands work on Cisco Packet Tracer, but normally I would do clear line, then VTY, and then the VTY number, which is either 0, 1, or 2. And that's how you can disconnect somebody by using the clear line command, but it's not available on the Cisco Packet Tracer. All right. Just wanted to show you that you can actually do that. If you do clear line, you can specify the line number from here. But as you see, Cisco Packet Tracer does not support all the commands. I mean, the commands that we could do will actually prepare you to work on routers and switches and prepare you for the CCNA exam. But on a real device, you'll be able to do so. So I could see how many limit I did for my VTY. So when I do the run, you can see over here, watch this, I only allow 3 people. No timeout at all, right? So the other ones are not going to be able to log in as you see. So right now, if I'm connecting through the console, if I'm connecting through Telnet, and Telnet is not recommended because the passwords are sent in clear text. I want to try and secure my console and my VTY, which is only for the Telnet, and later on we'll see the SSH in our next lecture. So we'll see you folks in our next lecture. Bye now. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's Mo again. Well, in this lecture, what we're going to be looking at is how can we configure usernames for the router, no matter what, if they're connected through the console or they're actually remoting in through Telnet. Instead of just knowing a password, you also have to know a username. Watch this. I'm connected through the console. This is the console password, which is console. Right? Let me just put console and enter. And now the enable secret, which is Cisco. So what I do is global configuration mode. I need to create some usernames. Let me ask for help. Do I have the username in the list? Yes, I do. Watch this. Username, put a question mark, word. I'm going to come up with a username called user1. You know what? Admin1. Better. Space, question mark. And I'm going to go ahead and put the actual password. I'm going to put secret. And the password is going to be, let's say, CCNA uppercase and press enter. Then I'm going to create another username, admin2. Okay, this time I'm going to do something else, privilege, and I'm going to give the highest level, which is 15. Now, what is 15? That means you have full control. The lower, you have less control. You don't need to know all the levels. It's good to know just 15. And then without a level, the user just has to put the enable secret. What do I mean by that? Space, secret, CCNA. So it's the same thing as what I did for admin 1, but admin 2 has privilege 15, which is the highest rank on a Cisco router. Now, I need to link the usernames to the console. So I do line on 0, sign for the uppercase, line con 0, and this time I do login to activate the password. But if I put a question mark, it says login local, which means check your local database for usernames and passwords. If you just do login, it's going to use the password that we assign to the console, which is console. Then I type exit and I do line VTY 0 space 2 and I do login local. See that? Activate the local database that has the usernames that we created. I want to do WR, Control Z, then WR, then show run. And do I see my actual usernames? Yes, I do see the usernames. One of them, admin2 has privilege 15, admin1 does not. You see the privilege by default, but then I could see now it's login local, login local. You know what? This password is going to be ignored, and this password is going to be ignored when you have local right over here. And let's test it. Let me exit out, all right, and enter. There you go. Username. It's admin1. What is the password? CCNA uppercase, then EN, and the enable secret is the same, which is Cisco. Then, if I exit out again, this time I'm going to type admin2, which is privilege 15. Password is CCNA, and now it's okay. Admin2 again, and I'm going to put the password, which is CCNA, enter. I did not have to put the enabled secret. So when you have an account that has privilege level 15, you're not going to be putting the enable secret itself. It's going to bypass that because of your privilege level. So I was able to prove to you that for console connections right now, we have to put a username and a password, then the enable secret. Now, if I try to telnet in, let's say from this device, right? Let me exit out. Oh, this is actually the console. Let me just close this, open command prompt, and telnet again, exit out, and telnet 100.254. Username is admin, right? One, same thing. Password is CCNA, and I'm logged in. Because this doesn't have privilege 15, then the enable secret is Cisco. Exit out. Okay, telnet again. Okay, username is admin2 and the password is CCNA and I log in. You see that? So now I was able to link the usernames and the passwords to which lines? To my console line, which is a direct connection to the router, and to the VTY, which is actually a telnet. So it's better to have a username and a password instead of just an actual password. That's what I wanted to show you in this lecture. And we will see you folks in our next lecture. Bye now. Everybody, welcome back. It's Mo again. Well, in this lecture, what I want to show you is how can we actually cipher or let's say encrypt the passwords. You see the problem that I have over here when I type admin1 and I put the password, which is CCNA, and then I actually log in and let me put the enable secret and log in. When I do show run, the only password that is encrypted by default is the enable secret and these over here. But if I go ahead and let's say I'm sticking to the console and the V2I, the normal one, I could see what the password is. What I could do is turn on a command from global configuration mode. If I ask for help, I'm looking for the service command. See that? Service. Okay, service, then question mark. Look what I see here. Password encryption. That's the first thing I like to do on a device. Enable password encryption. So it's going to go ahead and encrypt all your passwords. Then I'm going to do WR, which means, okay, go ahead and save your configuration, then show run. right? And look at the passwords right now here. They're actually encrypted. You want to disable that, you do no service password encryption. I don't see a reason why, but that's what you need to do to encrypt your actual passwords. Service password encryption. Very simple command from global configuration mode. All right. So that's what I wanted to show you in this lecture. And by the way, console is perfect to have. Telnet is not something that I want to use. In our next lecture, we're going to see how SSH works. So Telnet is based on port 53. SSH, which is a secure Telnet, is based on port 22. I want to disable Telnet and I just want to enforce SSH. And that's what we're going to do in our next lecture. Bye now. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's Mo again. Well, in this lecture, what we're going to be doing is configuring SSH, and I want to disable Telnet because SSH is a secure Telnet. So if there's an actual sniffer, you can see the credentials that Telnet is actually using. So I will never use Telnet. You would always use console at the beginning and configure SSH. And as you notice, Buddy does have SSH, which is based on port 22. Then Telnet is based on port 23, as you see. That's in real time in a real organization. So watch this. Let me log in through the console, which is the username is admin. Let's say two this time. All right. CCNA, so it's not going to ask me for the enable secret. All right. So watch this. There's a lot of commands for the SSH. So the first thing I have to do is I have to make sure I have a domain name. So if I look at my configuration, do I have an actual domain name? All right. I don't have a domain name. I have to have a host name. I have to have a domain name. So I know I have a host name as R1. If I say host name R1, this is fine. IP domain name, right? And I'm going to call this Udemy dot, let's say, edu. So you have to have a domain name. You know why? Because when we talk about SSH, a secure shell, it's similar to using like an SSL certificate for a website. That's what's going to be generated. This is part of something called PKI, public key infrastructure, which I'm using a certificate, which means there's like a public key and a private key. That's why it's more secure. So I'm going to press enter, IP domain name, udemy.edu. That's the name of the domain name. I have to have a host name. Then I'm going to be generating my actual key. Crypto key, question mark, generate, then RSA, which is Rivest, Samir, Adelman. That's the algorithm we're using, which is a mathematical structure. All right. General keys, there's a public and a private key, modules, and then I'll put, let's say, 1024 bits and enter. Now, look, there you go. SSH is enabled. I like to enable the latest version of SSH, which is version what? Watch this, 2. So that's what I want to do. See that? So I have a domain name. I have a host name. I generated my actual keys, which is public key infrastructure based on a public key and a private key. My next step is to create a username. Do I have a username? Yes, I have a username. Well, you know what? I want to create another username. Username, let's call this SSH. All right. And then secret and put a password as what? CCNA. SSH, and then let's say privilege is level what? 15, and then S for secret, the password, and it's CCNA. When I just use a different one for my SSH connection. This is what I do. Line VTY, 0 space 2, and then I ask for help. Okay. Transport. Look at this. Let me show you how to disable telnet. Transport, input, SSH, which means do not use telnet. Do not use Telnet at all. And of course, I should have login local over here, which means I won't be able to Telnet right now. The only protocol that is allowed to remote into the router is SSH. Then do WR. Very basic commands, folks. And of course, I do have an IP address on the device. So if I go back here, let me just show you. And I tried to Telnet again. Let me exit out. Control Shift 6. I didn't do the IP domain lookup. All right. See what happens? And Telnet again. Refused. Okay. Well, can I SSH? This time I want to do it through the Telnet and SSH client. I want to say SSH host name is 100.254 and the username is SSH and I want to connect. Password. Okay. No problem. It's CCNA. Oh, okay. CCNA uppercase. Perfect. I'm logged in. I just made an SSH connection. This is what you want to get adjusted to, folks. Not Telnet, SSH. It's a secure remote connection. Think about it as a secure telnet. It's based on an actual certificate, which is a digital signature. All right. That's what I wanted to show you in this lecture. We'll see you folks in our next lecture. Bye now. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's Mo again. In this lecture, what I want to do is set up an actual banner and see what that actually does for us. And I want to do all the commands in one single shot as a review for us. So I'm going to go to a router, get one, a 1941, all right, and get myself a switch. And then let me get a few computers. Let's say a few laptops. One, two, three, four. That's enough. All right. And let me put the actual cables. There you go. So port one, as you see, port two, port three, and port four. And there we go. And then from the router, gigabit 00 to gigabit 01. Okay, let me open the router, CLI, and let's do all the fun work in one single shot. So I'm going to say no, en, config t, hostname r1, enable secret. Let's say what? Cisco, all right. Service, password encryption, no IP domain lookup, right? So it doesn't resolve names, right? So that's what I wanted to do. Interface, gigabit 0/0, IP address, let's say 100.254, space the default mask, and then do no shut, right? Exit, go back one level, IP DHCP exclude address, excluding 100.254, all right? And then I'm going to create my pool, IP DHCP pool 100, no, control A. I want to use the no command. Do you see that? Do this again and get rid of the dot. Then I'm going to say the network, which is 100.0, space the default subnet mask, and then default router is 100.254. And then DNS server is 88888. You see that? I just configured a DHCP server. Let me exit out and create some usernames. Let's say admin1, right? Secret is CCNA and username admin2, privilege 15, secret CCNA. All right. So, and then I want to do line console 0. Let's say login local, which means check the local database, right? I could do exact timeout. I could do line VTY from here also, by the way. I don't have to exit as long as you know what the command is, and login local as you see. You see that? I just wanted to do a few commands over here. Then exit. And now I want to set up a banner, message of the day. Okay, what does that mean? You can start with any letter. You want to start with a pound sign, space, question mark. So I could actually press enter over here, enter the message. I'm going to say, welcome to my router's class. And when I enter, I have to end it with whatever I started with, and I'm going to press enter. Now I want to do WR. You see this? Control Z, exit out, enter, and now I can see the actual banner itself. So username, let's say admin2, and the password is CCNA. If I want to telnet, same thing, I will see the banner. Let me just get an IP address directly, and then telnet. Telnet 192.168.100.254. There you go. Here's the banner. You see this? Username is admin2 and the password is CCNA. And I don't have to put the enable secret because I did privilege level 15. That's what I wanted to show you in this lecture, how we could set up an actual banner. So we'll see you folks in our next lecture. Bye now.